You see, different communities have different starting points. Our starting point was very, very small, a caravan. And we grew organically in a way that a little bit of land became available, so we built a house. And then we didn't realize that later another piece of land became available behind that house. Now that house was blocking the sunlight to the piece of land behind it. If we were a community where we say, okay, we have all this land, which we didn't. It's just bit by bit by bit. We acquired the land over 50 years. But if we had all this land and we would say, let's sit down and plan this community, we wouldn't have built big houses like that south of here. We would have had the biggest houses up there. When we started, there were no trees here. And the wind was destroying the gardens and blowing the caravans away. So we knew we needed to plant trees, but we had no money. So we just put out a call to the world, give us trees. So the tree nurseries dumped off trees that otherwise they would have burned, they would have destroyed. They just dumped a trailer load of trees here, and they're great trees. So we planted them. But they weren't necessarily the appropriate trees for the site and for the soil, and So, we did what we could, not having money, not feeling that we had a lot of choice. We also didn't have people with the knowledge that we have now about what trees do. So if I could, with my knowledge now, if I could start from the beginning with the land that we have, most of the trees that we planted here, I would not plant. They're here now, they're living beings, so I work with them. But, you would have a bit more discrimination about what kind of trees you want to have. Rather than just saying, give us trees, you would say, we want these trees and those trees and those trees and those trees. And have the faith that it will come. But we didn't quite have that faith. We just had enough faith to say, trees will come. We need trees. And like me, most people here were doing jobs they'd never done before. I wasn't a gardener, was suddenly in charge of the garden, and I was a forester. Carrots, cabbages, I knew very little about. And so in the same way, people who started developing that didn't necessarily have the skills. So this is how this community is. I've been to other communities where one person owned the land, and he could make a blueprint from the beginning, a dream of zones, where you want to have the central piece, what is in the center. You can combine your laundry and your greenhouse, so the heat from the laundry warms the greenhouse. You can plan all that, what kind of trees you want to have here, here, here. The biggest houses in the north, the smaller ones in the south. Here it was impossible because of the nature of this community, in which this community grew. So I think, the most important thing I would say for any starting community is this candle in the center of our circles. What is in the center? What is it that you can all come back to? When you're starting to argue, and when you're, what are the things that you hold sacred that can guide you, that can give you the guidance that you need, whatever you do? How do we put co-creation with nature? That was our question for the last 50 years. In action in the kitchen, or in maintenance, or in our governance, not just in the garden. So when co-creation with nature became a central point, you have a reference, that you can, a place where you all meet. You all want that, and it doesn't matter which aspect of your community you're working in, what particular skills you have. How is that co-creation? In our case, co-creation with nature. You may have some other central theme. Without that, it's pretty difficult. So I run a little mini community here, which is the garden department, with a constant influx of guests who come and who go. And it's important with all that change to have a center that's stable, that's clear, around which we all meet, around which we become a circle. And, I just want to say, I've been to a community in Brazil that was kind of the opposite. one person had enough money to buy all the land. So he was in control, he had the vision. He attracted a lot of other people, and he told them where to build and what to build. Now, I loved that community. I loved the houses a lot more than our houses here, because they happen to be my taste, my style. Right? And the houses is all very well organized, and they all look I think they look much nicer than our houses. And the trade-off is, it just happens to be my taste and what I like. But what you have is a community where you have one person who's like the dictator, which later then also created a lot of problems. He may have had a great idea, a great plan, it's very beautiful. Here, it's a little chaotic. There's no one person who tells everybody what to do. You get many different styles of houses, you get very big monuments to ego in our ego village, and you get tiny little ones, You get all this crazy, chaotic expression of people's creativity and people's dreams. The good thing is, the freedom that we have here. The freedom for the individual to express themselves. I lived in a little garden hut for 5 years, 2 meters on 2 meters. And we have a huge diversity of people here, people with absolutely no money, people who have money and build houses that look as if they have money. So, different communities, different circumstances, and one is not better than the other. I choose to live in a community where I don't like the houses so much, but where there's freedom. The main thing I would say is, have the courage to make mistakes. Because for every success here, we've made many mistakes. So I learned a lot through just having the courage to try, but then to watch what happens and learn from it. So all too often, we want to get it perfect, and then we don't try because we're afraid of making mistakes. So I would encourage anybody, make compost, and if you don't know exactly how, give it a try, watch what happens, and learn from it. For me, that's the one way to do it if you don't have someone there with a lot of experience to tell you what to do. Well, my work here is 50% with my hands in the soil and with the plants, doing what gardeners do, and 50% is, the other half is with people. Okay. So we have a constant influx of people who come and do our experience week, workshops, and then they spend a few shifts in different departments, and they come to the garden and they work with me. So I share with them about the alchemy of compost. Why do we weed? Some people have very romantic notions about not pulling out. Why do we do that? So in that way, I'm very traditional. I have had the privilege of studying with teachers and have learned that a lot of the teaching is in this human interaction. And no book that you read can replace that. So I do this all the time. Every day of the year, people come through here, I work with people, I train our newer people here in the garden. I have a brand new team now. None of them has been here last year. They're all new to gardening. They're all new to community living. They're all new to what we do, so it falls to me to train them. So I'm doing that all the time. And I've had the request to write more. And I'm too busy. And I'm getting older, maybe I'll sit down and sit back and write a little. But inner gardening and outer gardening, this is my work. Taking care of people's inner gardens, the gardens of their hearts, and the techniques for that, and outer gardening. People like me here live with a lot of idealism. Like I don't make money, I get very little, I get pocket money. But I consider myself one of the richest people I know because of the quality of my life. That I don't have the pressure of commercial gardening. We do our best, to make things look cared for. But the important thing is we do it with people, and we share and we learn. We share our learning with people. Let's put it that way. We share our learning with people. So one of the ancient wisdom traditions, one of the Native American teachers I had the privilege to study with, a wonderful woman, and she would always say to us, in all that you do, consider its effect on the next 7 generations. So while when you're beginning a community, you are very much in the here and now, it's often about survival, we have no money, or it is important to stay in touch with a vision that goes into the next generations. Yeah? We have built houses up here, small bungalows up here, when we had no trees in front of them. Now when you go there, you see these bungalows got so much light, they're south-facing, that they made tinted windows, so dark windows. And then they planted trees here on the ridge. And today these houses get absolutely no sunlight, because they're little bungalows. And you have all these trees now in front of them. So, you need to think a little bit, how will it be, 20 years, 50 years? How will it be for our children? Even if you think right now we're so busy with survival, we're so busy with just getting the basics together, but it will also help you to stay inspired when it's difficult. When you're not just thinking of your own difficulties and your challenges, but you're thinking bigger. You're thinking, how will it be for our children and their children? How will it be when something grows there in front of these houses? You walk there and you see the south-facing windows, they're all dark, all tinted, so that because people got so much light when they built it. But they didn't think that there was all this land in front of them that belonged to, that we would plant on. And right now they're all complaining, want me to cut the trees down because they don't get any light. So it's simple things like that, but the important thing is, you will find sometimes it's tempting to stay just in the moment and survive, and all your energy goes into that. Make sure in every meeting when you deal with that, you have some space where you look at the bigger picture, because it will inspire you, it will carry you forward, it will pull you forward, and give some consideration. How will this be for 2 generations, for your children, their children, whoever inherits this land? And I think that works on many different levels. It inspires you, and it works for future generations.